thinking about getting a home battery. Maybe you're dreaming of ditching those power bills or just want to keep the lights on when the grid goes dark.
Yeah.
But have you ever stopped to really think about what makes that battery tick, what the warranty actually covers, and how it all plays with the other tech in your home energy setup? It's more than just a big box, right?
Absolutely. It's an investment. And like any significant purchase, understanding the details up front can save you a lot of trouble
Right.
and ensure you get the most out of it for years to come. It's not just about having backup power. It's about having reliable and, cost-effective energy storage.
Okay, let's really dig into this because for this deep dive, we've got a whole pile of technical info focused on a specific and popular combo. The Fortress Power EVault Max 18.5 kilowatt battery
Right.
and the Sol-Ark inverter. We're looking closely at the 15K LV model in particular.
And we've sifted through, well, everything.
Yeah.
The Fortress battery's warranty letter, the installation guide, the tech data sheet.
It's the nuts and bolts stuff.
Exactly. Documents showing its compatibility with SolArk, programming instructions for both, and even confirmation that certain SolArk inverters can qualify for those juicy IRA tax credits. So we've got a really comprehensive picture here.
Exactly. Our mission for you today, listener, is to take all that technical jargon and turn it into plain English. We want to highlight the crucial things you need to know about the EVault Max and these SolArk systems.
How they work together.
Yeah, what the warranty truly protects you against and what it doesn't, and how you might be able to take advantage of those tax incentives, all without needing to be an electrical engineer.
Sounds good. So let's start with the backbone of your investment, the Fortress Power EVault Max warranty. It offers coverage for 10 years, which sounds great.
It does.
But there are a couple of ways that clock could run out sooner. What are the key things someone should be aware of regarding that timeline?
Right. It's a maximum 10 years from when you bought it, or when you've used it for 8,000 charge-discharge cycles at 80% depth of discharge. Or just 3,000 cycles if you're regularly draining it all the way to 100%. So how much you use the battery and how deeply you discharge it each time directly impacts how long that warranty period lasts in terms of cycles.
That's a really important point to understand. Think of it like this. Shallower daily use might extend the cycle lifespan compared to, frequently draining it completely.
Makes sense.
The warranty also clearly states that a licensed professional electrician must handle the installation, strictly following Fortress Power's official manual.
So no DIY.
If you decide to DIY the install, unfortunately, you'll be waving goodbye to that warranty.
And what if you sell your house down the line? Is the battery warranty something that goes with it?
It does, but only if the battery stays exactly where it was originally installed. So it's tied to the specific location, not necessarily to whoever owns the property at the time.
Now, let's talk about the things that can actually make the warranty invalid. This is where paying close attention to the details is super important. What are some common mistakes or situations that could void your coverage?
Oh, plenty. Anything wrong with the installation work itself if the electrician makes a mistake that's not on Fortress.
Okay.
And if you need to take the battery out, ship it back, or reinstall a replacement, those costs are also your responsibility. Any flaws in the design of your overall energy system or critical errors made during installation,
Like what?
like accidentally reversing the positive and negative connections, that's a big one that will definitely void the warranty.
Ouch. And it's not just about the battery itself, right? What if another part of your system causes damage?
Exactly. Even if you have a top-of-the-line inverter, if it somehow damages the battery, that damage wouldn't be covered under the Fortress warranty.
Interesting.
Also, a seemingly small detail. Keep those serial numbers intact. If they're altered or removed, the warranty is gone.
Temperature seems like a crucial factor, too. You can't just stick this battery anywhere, can you?
Absolutely not. You need to ensure the battery consistently operates within a specific temperature range above 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, freezing.
And below 90 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's regularly exposed to sustained cold or heat outside of those limits, that will void the warranty. And it should go without saying, but using the battery for something it wasn't designed for, like in heavy industrial equipment if it's intended for home use, will also invalidate the coverage.
Okay.
The warranty also limits what Fortress Power is actually liable for. If a defect is found, their main responsibility is to either repair or replace the faulty battery.
That's it.
Pretty much. They won't cover any other financial losses you might experience, like lost income if a power outage affects your home business, or other, indirect consequences of the battery failing.
So if something goes wrong, you don't just call up Fortress and say, come get this thing. What's the process for getting service?
Not quite. Your installer or the company you bought it from needs to reach out to Fortress Power in writing.
In writing?
Yeah, with all the specifics. Proof of when you bought it, the model and serial number, a clear explanation of the problem you're seeing, and the address where any potential replacement would need to be shipped.
And you need an RMA number.
You do. You'll need to get an RMA, a Return Merchandise Authorization number, from Fortress before you send anything back.
Got it.
There are also some very important things you need to do and not do right from the get-go. What are some of those critical initial steps?
Really crucial stuff. You must only turn the battery on for the first time when it's fully charged.
Fully charged, okay.
If you need to charge it before it's installed, you have to use a charger specifically approved by Fortress for lithium iron phosphate batteries. No other type of charger is allowed.
LFP specific.
Yes. And this is a big one. Never, ever attempt to charge the battery if the temperature is below freezing 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
We mentioned that temperature limit before.
Doing any of these things right at the start can immediately void your warranty.
Wow, okay. And finally, the size of your system matters. The warranty explicitly warns that using an inverter that charges the battery at a rate that's too high can actually cause it to break down.
And that won't be covered.
Correct.
Yeah.
They even refer you to their minimum recommended battery sizing standard document. This really highlights how important it is to make sure your battery capacity is properly matched to the power output of your inverter.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the SolArk inverters. We're focusing on that 15K LV model. How does it work with the EVault Max battery? What makes them a good pairing?
Well, the documentation points to a strong level of compatibility, especially with the 15K LV. They utilize something called closed-loop communication.
Closed loop.
Think of it like having a direct two-way conversation between the battery and the inverter. Instead of them just sending basic signals, they can constantly exchange detailed information about things like charge levels and power needs, allowing them to work together much more efficiently and optimize performance.
Nice.
Specifically, the 15K LV can even handle short bursts of up to 12 kilowatts of power output from a single EVault Max.
12 kilowatt, wow.
However, for continuous operation, to keep things within safe limits and warranty guidelines, the rate at which you charge the battery and sell power back to the grid should be capped at 9 kilowatts per EVault Max, even if you have this one-to-one pairing.
So even though the inverter could potentially draw more power for a short time, it's better for the long-term health and warranty of the battery to stick to those lower continuous rates.
Exactly. Keep it steady at 9 kilowatts max for charging and grid cell.
What about safety when connecting to the grid? Are there specific certifications?
Yes, the SolArk Limitless series, which includes the 15K LV, has both UL 1741 and UL 1741 Supplement SB certification.
Okay, those are the grid standards.
Crucial safety standards for inverters that connect to the power grid, ensuring they meet all the necessary requirements for safety and how they interact with the utility. One important safety feature mentioned is anti-islanding.
Anti-islanding, that's when your solar system could still be sending power out, even if the main grid is down, which can be really dangerous for the people working to restore power.
Right.
How does SolArk prevent that?
Exactly. Now, when the power grid goes down, it might be tempting to think your solar and battery system can just keep powering your home as usual. However, if that power were to feed back into the downed grid,
Big hazard.
it could be incredibly dangerous for utility workers trying to fix the problem. That's where anti-islanding comes in. It's a safety feature that automatically disconnects your system from the grid during an outage, preventing any accidental backfeed.
Okay.
The SolArk 5K, 8K, and 12K models use a method called Group 1 anti-islanding, which relies on frequency shift with continuous positive frequency feedback.
Bit technical.
It is. The documentation notes that this same approach will also be detailed in the manual for the 15K inverter.
Now, what if someone already has a solar panel system with a different inverter, and they want to add the SolArk and Fortress battery specifically for backup? Can they AC couple the SolArk?
Yes.
What does that even mean?
Yes, the SolArk inverters are capable of being AC coupled on what's called the load side. Think of it like adding a new component to your existing electrical system without directly replacing the old one.
Okay.
This allows the SolArk to work alongside your current grid-tied solar inverter. However, the SolArk's AC coupling guide has some important settings you need to be aware of.
Such as?
You'll need to enable the AC couple on load side option in the SolArk's configuration. Also, the high fres setting?
High freeze.
Yeah, high fres. It relates to how the system reduces power from the AC coupled source based on frequency, needs to be set correctly depending on whether your existing solar inverter meets the newer UL1741SA or the older UL1741 standard.
Ah, okay, so you need to know that about your existing inverter.
Right. You typically set it to 62 hertz or 65 hertz, respectively.
And how do you prevent the batteries from getting overcharged in this AC coupled setup if the grid goes down and you still have solar power coming in?
That's where the smart load ON-BAT settings become crucial. When AC coupling is enabled, these settings tell the SolArk when to essentially turn off the incoming power from your existing solar system during a grid outage.
Based on the battery level.
Right, based on how full the battery is, its state of charge, or SOC, or sometimes the battery's voltage. This prevents overcharging.
What are the recommended settings?
The guide recommends setting the on-BAT value, the point at which it starts to limit the AC coupled power somewhere between 60% and 70% SOC.
Okay.
And the off-BAT value, the point at which it completely cuts off the AC coupled power between 80% and 90% SOC.
So a range there.
Yes, and it's vital that the off-BAT value is always higher than the on-BAT value.
Logically.
Also, for the AC coupling to function even when the grid is present, you need to have grid cell enabled in the SolArk settings, although you can configure it to only power your home and not actually send energy back to the utility if you prefer.
Time of use electricity plans are becoming more common. How does SolArk handle AC coupling if you're trying to charge your battery when electricity is cheaper and use it when it's more expensive?
For time of use scenarios with AC coupling, the guide strongly recommends using the SolArk's limited power to home mode
Okay.
and installing the current transformer CT sensors that come with the inverter.
The CT clamps.
Right. To specifically charge the battery using power from your AC-coupled solar during those cheaper time slots, you'll need to select the charge boxes in the SolArk's time of use TOU settings table for those periods.
Makes sense.
However, to avoid accidentally pulling power from the grid to charge the battery in this setup, you should make absolutely sure that the grid charge option is not selected in the main battery charge settings.
Ah, important detail.
Very. Using limited power to home with the CT sensors helps the SolArk accurately manage the flow of energy and ensure the battery charges appropriately during your designated time slots.
Interestingly, the documents also have information about programming the SolArk for old-school flooded lead-acid batteries. Is that something we need to worry about with the Lithium EVault Max?
Well, while our main focus is definitely the Lithium EVault Max, this information in the SolArk programming guide actually highlights how versatile these inverters are.
True.
And it could be relevant if someone had a more complex system with different battery types, or maybe if they were considering a future change in battery tech.
Okay.
For flooded batteries, the SolArk allows for manual adjustment of crucial charging parameters like bulk absorption voltage, the end amps timer, and the float voltage.
All the specifics for lead acid.
Exactly, and you'd set these based on the specific recommendations from the flooded battery manufacturer. Equalization, charging that special charge to balance cells, done using grid or solar, not a generator, and temperature compensation are also important for lead acid.
Now, for a big question that's on a lot of homeowners' minds, are these kinds of systems eligible for those sweet tax credits?
Yes. The official IRA compliance letter from SolArk confirms that certain SolArk inverter models, including the 15K series, are certified as qualifying solar electric property under Section 25D of the Internal Revenue Code.
Good news.
It is. Of course, this assumes the homeowner meets all the other requirements for the tax credit. It's always a good idea to chat with a tax professional to get personalized advice for your specific situation.
Always. And just a quick rundown of the SolArk 15K LV's core technical specs. What kind of power are we talking about here?
Key specs for the SolArk 15K LV include a maximum amount of solar panel power you can connect up to 19,500 watts.
Big PV array.
It works with batteries in the voltage range of 43 to 63 volts. It can handle a very high charge and discharge current of up to 275 amps.
Wow.
It can continuously output 15,000 watts of AC power, which is substantial for running a whole house. And the inverter itself comes with a standard 10-year warranty.
10 years on the inverter, too. Okay, one last little tidbit about the SolArk. Does it play nice with those TEGO optimizers you sometimes see on solar panels?
Yes. The SolArk Limitless series, including our 15K LV, is compatible with various TEGO TS4 products.
Okay.
If you use AC-coupled TEGO optimizers, you can actually get individual monitoring of each of your solar panels, which is a feature the standard SolArk system doesn't have built in.
Ah, panel-level monitoring.
Right. The guide even suggests that using TEGO for monitoring might be a more cost-effective option compared to some other AC-coupled monitoring solutions.
Interesting alternative. All right, let's zoom in on the Fortress Power Vault Max itself, the physical side of things, how you actually install it and how it works day to day. We know it has to be connected in parallel. What does that mean for setting it up?
Absolutely no connecting them in series, like you might with AA batteries and a flashlight.
Right, parallel only.
You can connect up to a whopping 20 of these 18.5 kilowatt modules in parallel,
20?
giving you a massive total storage capacity of 370 kilowatt-hours.
That's huge.
It is. When you're installing multiple units side by side, the manual recommends leaving at least 5 inches of space between each battery for proper ventilation.
5 inches, okay. And the wiring, that's got to be pretty beefy, right? What kind of cables do you need?
You definitely need appropriately sized copper cables. The manual suggests starting with 20 AWG, that's a specific thickness for shorter cable runs.
20 gauge.
But it's always crucial to check your local electrical codes for the specific requirements in your area.
Always check local code.
And getting the polarity right, positive to positive, negative to negative, is absolutely non-negotiable. If you're connecting multiple batteries in parallel and not using the RJ45 communication cables between them,
Okay.
you need to make sure the voltage difference between any two batteries is no more than half a volt when you connect them.
0.5 volts max difference. Why?
A big difference in voltage can cause a very large current to flow, which could damage the batteries and void your warranty.
Ah, okay. Dangerous surge. Safety first, always. What are the most important safety precautions to keep in mind when installing and using the EVault Max?
Numerous ones. The manual has clear warnings about the risks of explosion, fire, and electric shock. Proper grounding of the entire system is absolutely essential.
Grounding, right.
You'll need to install circuit breakers, disconnect switches, and fuses throughout the system to protect all the different components. The manual also stresses the importance of wearing insulated gloves and using insulated tools during installation.
PPE.
Definitely. Never mix the EVault Max with batteries from different manufacturers or with different chemical makeups, and definitely don't try to take the battery apart or modify it yourself.
Don't open it up.
No. If the outer casing looks damaged in any way, don't touch any exposed internal components.
Where's the best place to put this battery? Are there any specific environmental conditions it needs?
It's designed for indoor installation in a location that's protected from water and has a flat, level floor to support its weight.
Indoors, dry, level.
Keep it away from anything flammable or explosive. The ideal operating temperature range is between 59 degrees and 95 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's operating, different from the warranty survival range.
All right, ideal operating, with stable temperature and humidity and as little dust and dirt as possible. For storing the battery long-term, the recommendation is to charge it to around 60% state of charge.
60% for storage.
And then check on it every 1 to 3 months to make sure it hasn't dropped below 20%.
Okay.
When the battery is turned off and it has more than 20% charge, it will self-discharge at a rate of about 1% per month.
Pretty low self-discharge.
For extended storage, it's best to power it off completely to minimize discharge. Make sure to avoid extreme temperatures and direct sunlight during storage.
The EVault Max has a little LCD screen on it. What kind of information does that show, and are there any warning signs to watch out for?
Yeah, the LCD screen provides real-time info like the battery's voltage, the current it's charging or discharging at, its current state of charge, how full it is,
SOC.
and the power output. If you see a red alarm light illuminated, that indicates a problem.
Like what kind of problem?
Could be voltage or temperature being too high or too low, or if there's an open or short circuit somewhere within the battery.
Okay, red light means investigate. Getting the battery to talk to the inverter is obviously key. What communication methods does the EVault Max use?
It supports both RS-485 and CAN communication protocols for interacting with inverters.
RS-485 and CAN.
For SolArk's 5K, 8K, and 12K models, it uses MODBUS over RS-485. Well, for other inverters, like some from Schneider Electric, it can use CAN.
Depends on the inverter.
Exactly. For communication between multiple EVault Max batteries connected in parallel, it uses dedicated COM parallel ports.
Okay.
The internal canvas resistors within the batteries need to be configured correctly. You'll typically set them to 120 ohms on the first and the last battery in the communication chain and turn them off on all the batteries in between.
Termination resistors.
Right. You also need to program a unique battery ID for each battery in a parallel setup. If you only have one battery, you set it to 0 and set the protocol ID to match the specific inverter you're using.
Commissioning that initial process of getting the whole system online for the very first time, what's the recommended way to do that with the EVault Max?
There's a specific order of operations you should follow. First, make sure that all the EVault Max batteries you're connecting in parallel have that voltage difference of no more than 0.5 volts between them.
Check voltages first.
Then, turn on the main breaker for your inverter, as well as the breakers for any charge controllers, and all the DC breakers for the batteries. Next, actually power on each of the batteries individually.
Power up the batteries.
After that, briefly turn off the main battery, the one with battery ID set to 1, and then turn it back on.
Cycle the main one.
Yeah, this initiates the parallel connection process.
Yeah.
The entire battery bank will then start to pre-charge the inverter, and the individual batteries will join the system one by one based on their voltage levels.
Okay, sequenced startup.
Finally, once all the batteries are online, you can turn on any additional inverters or charge controllers and start testing the system.
Charging is obviously fundamental. What are the best practices for charging the EVault Max, both from solar panels and maybe from the grid or a generator if needed?
Well, as we mentioned earlier regarding the warranty, you should only use Fortress-approved chargers for any external charging you do before the battery's installed.
Right.
And you should absolutely never attempt to charge it if the ambient temperature is below 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
Don't charge below freezing.
The recommended charge current for normal operation is 150 amps, with an absolute maximum of 180 amps.
150 amps recommended.
And unlike traditional lead-acid batteries, lithium batteries like the EVault Max don't require a float charge, that constant low-level charge to maintain fullness.
No float needed.
It's also important to ensure that the average operating temperature of the battery over its entire lifespan doesn't exceed 86 degrees Fahrenheit.
Keep it cool on average. What about when things don't go as planned? If there's a problem, where should someone start troubleshooting an EVault Max battery?
The very first thing you should do is safely isolate the battery by turning off its DC breaker and disconnecting all external power sources.
Isolate it first.
Then check if the voltage displayed on the battery's LCD screen matches what you measure directly at the battery terminals using a multimeter.
Check voltage consistency.
If there's a significant difference, you might need a special BMS adapter cable and software tool to get more detailed diagnostic information.
You might need special tools.
The manual also advises against adding new EVault Max batteries to systems that are already more than a year old,
Oh, interesting. Why?
as there could be differences in their internal electrical resistance, which can cause balancing issues.
Ah, okay. And if the battery needs a firmware update, how does someone go about doing that?
Updating the firmware requires disconnecting all the communication cables from the battery.
Disconnect comms.
You'll need to download a specific software program called EVault Max Uppercomputer.exe and the latest firmware file from the Fortress Power website, along with a compatible CAN communication tool.
Need the software and a CAN tool.
Right. The update process involves connecting the CAN tool to the battery's comparallel port and using the downloaded software to upload the new firmware file to the battery.
Okay.
The battery will power down during the update, and it's critical that you don't interrupt the process until it's complete.
Don't interrupt the update. Finally, let's circle back to the SolArk inverter and those different programming modes it offers. How can a homeowner typically use these modes in conjunction with a battery like the EVault Max to manage their home energy?
Okay, SolArk provides several operating modes that allow you to customize how your system behaves. Grid cell is pretty self-explanatory.
Sell excess power.
Right. If you don't have a battery connected, this is the mode you'd use to send any excess solar power you generate back to the utility grid.
Makes sense.
Limited power to load mode prioritizes powering only the electrical loads that are directly connected to the inverter's load terminals.
Just the backup loads.
Exactly. This is often used for whole house backup or in completely off-grid installations.
Yeah.
Limited power to home mode is interesting because it uses the CT sensors
Clamps again.
that come with the SolArk to monitor the total power flowing in and out of your home. This allows you to use your solar and battery to offset your home's energy consumption without necessarily selling power back to the grid when the utility is online.
Self-consumption, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
And the time of use mode sounds like it offers a lot of flexibility.
Absolutely. Time of use, TOU mode, gives you the ability to create a schedule for when your battery charges, discharges, and when you might sell power back to the grid, all based on specific time slots.
For those tiered rates.
Exactly. This is really useful if your electricity provider has different rates depending on the time of day. When you're setting up TOU mode, you need to carefully configure the permissions for charging in the battery settings.
Grid charge, generator charge.
Right. You can choose to allow charging from the grid, a generator, or both, and then define the target battery percentage or voltage in the TOU table for each time slot.
Set the target for each period.
A key thing to remember with TOU mode is that you should never have both charge and sell selected for the same time slot in your TOU settings,
Don't charge and sell at the same time.
as that could create conflicts in how the system operates.
Got it. Wow, we've really gone into the weeds here, taking a deep dive into the Fortress EVault Max and how it works with SolArk inverters.
We covered a lot.
What are the most important things you'd want a listener to take away from all this?
Well, the Fortress PowerVault Max is a high-performance battery with a significant warranty behind it.
Definitely.
But to truly benefit from it and keep that warranty intact, you need to ensure it's installed correctly by a professional, carefully configured to work with compatible inverters like the Sol-Ark, and that you consistently follow the recommended operating guidelines.
Installation and operation are key.
Understanding the ins and outs of AC coupling and the different operating modes of the SolArk inverter gives you a lot of control over how you manage your home energy.
Lots of customization.
And don't forget to look into the potential for those IRA tax credits for certain SolArk models, as that can be a significant financial benefit.
Check the tax credits. So, thinking about how the number of charge cycles you get out of your battery is linked to how much you discharge it each time.
That 80% DOD versus 100% DOD thing.
Right. And knowing that unexpected power outages might require you to rely heavily on your stored energy, what strategies could you, the listener, consider to find that sweet spot? How can you maximize your energy independence when the grid goes down while also ensuring you're not using up those valuable battery cycles prematurely? And what other questions are you left with about how to best integrate these technologies for your unique home energy needs?
Good questions to ponder.
That's your food for thought after this deep dive.